Before we start, you have all already seen this kind of safe harbor statements. We might mention some forward-looking statements and our roadmap, and we just need to remind you that any purchasing decisions should be made only on the features which are already available and not on our roadmaps, because roadmaps are plans and plans can change, right? Having said that, let's get to the fun stuff. I'm joined today by my colleague Carlos. Carlos, would you like to make a brief introduction and tell us a little bit more about you?
Yeah, thanks, Leila. Hello everyone. Carlos Aquise here, Senior Technical Adoption Specialist. That's the name of the role. The way I see myself is trying to give our customers the best experience when starting to adopt our software and the new workflows. In my background, I'm a civil engineer based out of Madrid, and really passionate about learning something new each day.
Great. Thank you so much, Carlos. I'm Leila Sečebegovic. I am a product manager on the data exchange team. I've been with Autodesk for more than 10 years in various roles, and my main focus is around Revit and also OpenBIM and IFC workflows. This is why the data exchange for IFC is particularly exciting for me, and I'm very glad that I was able to be a part of this project and to present it to you today. A little bit about our agenda. So we will have a quick look at the data exchange for the ones among you who are not familiar with it, so that you are able to know what we are talking about. Then we will have a live workflow demo, which I will keep quite short because I have published a video recently on this, which you can rewatch at your own pace. But I want to show you how the data exchange connector for IFC works live and how easy it is to bring then the data you can extract through data exchange to Power BI. And then Carlos will show you a very nice workflow from Civil 3D to IFC to data exchange to Revit. I'm also very much looking forward to this. I know the demo, but it's really a great workflow. And at the end, we will also have enough time for Q&A. And now let's get started. So I will give you just a very quick introduction into a data exchange. We will keep this short, but I will also share some other resources later if you want to dig deeper into data exchange. So basically, the mission of a data exchange is to enhance the interoperability by sharing curated subsets of data instead of files. And why is this now such a game changer? So if you think what happens when we share entire files, they can be difficult to ship. They might also include your own IP, like for example, your Revit families, if you are really sharing the native Revit model. It might not be clear to the recipient how the model was built. And if they receive everything, they need to dismantle half of the model to access the elements which are really relevant to them. So if they are responsible only for a certain area or for a certain trade, then they might not need the entire model. And sharing subsets of data is basically sharing only the items which are needed on the other side. You can share as many subsets as you need. This will not only help you protect your IP, but it will make sure that you include only the relevant information, and that you also maintain the connection to the original. So it is very easy to update what you have shared at any time because we maintain the connection, which can be then used to update the data exchange and then also to reload the updated subsets of data in whichever tool you are using. So this basically means if we start from an authoring app, this can be a Revit, a Tekla, Inventor, or even an IFC file uploaded to ACC. then we basically extract a subset of data which is stored on the ACC. So it has to be stored on the Autodesk docs, and anyone who needs to access this data needs to have the access to the Autodesk docs. And then you are able to use the subset of data for coordination, for documentation, and also for dashboarding. And the advantage of this is obviously that you don't need to worry about the data security or anything, because everything stays stored on ACC in your trusted data environment, and you are always aware of who has access to your data and who not. Then we have a couple of data exchange connectors, which I know most of you are aware of based on the poll we had at the beginning, but just a quick run through. On ACC, we can create data exchanges from Revit files, starting from Revit 2024, and now also from IFC files. And we also have the Microsoft Power Automate connector, which basically lets you access the data in the data exchanges in a more flexible way to use it in various workflows. Then we have our generally available connectors. These are the most major connectors which you can use in your daily workflows. We have the Power BI connector, which is used quite a lot. Then, of course, the Revit and the Inventor, Rhino, and Tekla connectors. And then we also have a bunch of beta connectors. We have seen that many of you are using the Navisworks connector as well, so that's great to hear. We also do have a Civil 3D connector. However, we are working on a new approach for this connector because we are not quite satisfied with the speed and with the quality as we are processing the data in the background through IFC. And Carlos will tell you a little bit more about that later, and also why he's using the data exchange connector for IFC to basically extract subsets of data to data exchange from Civil 3D. For the ones of you who have not used the Data Exchange Cloud Connector for IFC so far, just a quick intro. So what you can do is when you upload an IFC to the Autodesk docs, you will see this tab appear here on the left, which is the Data Exchange tab. And that one will give you the filters, which you see here. So you will be able to filter down your data exchange based on the IFC class, on the predefined type, on the name. And you can also edit this filter list and basically append any other IFC property available in your file to be used here as well. So this is like a very flexible way to filter down your data and basically only share a subset of an IFC file, which might be a lot more lightweight and also easier to use in the following workflow. Another great feature is that once you create a data exchange, so let's say you have your IFC file uploaded on docs, you create a data exchange. We will create the data exchange, obviously with the version 1. But then what happens if you update your IFC file? So if you update the original IFC file to a version 2, so you receive a new file or you export a new version of the IFC file, then ACC will automatically check what has changed and will also automatically update your data exchange as well. So you will always have the reflection of the latest state of the data in your data exchange. And of course, we support IFC 2x3, IFC 4, and IFC 4.3, all the currently valid model view definitions. And For IFC 4 and IFC 4.3, there is currently a small issue with the auto update, which will be resolved in the next weeks. But I just want to call it out that in some seldom cases, there could be some missing elements after the auto update. So please double check on that. And as mentioned, it will be resolved in the next weeks as the team is already working on that. Now, some of you will probably not be able to see this data exchange tab, or you will be able to see it, but you won't be able to access the filters. So you will get the message that you cannot use a data exchange for IFC. And I would like to explain why that can happen. So first of all, data exchange is available currently on the US, EMEA, and also the Australian regional hubs. And we are working on the region support for the new data hubs like the German hub, the India hub, and so on. So currently you are not able to use a data exchange on projects which are located on other regional hubs. But we are also already working on that as well. And we expect the new region support to be available in the next year. Then another reason is, and I know this will be a question at the end, so I want to answer it already now. The Data Exchange Cloud Connector for IFC, so this functionality with the filters I just showed you, is available across all ACC projects which were created after July 22nd. And we get a lot of questions, why? Why this date? Why aren't we able to activate it on older projects? So I just want to give you the background on that because on July 22nd, the Autodesk docs actually switched the IFC conversion method to a new and a more stable approach. That approach is called the V4, like the version 4 of our IFC conversion, which was already introduced in the Navisworks 2025. So if you are a Navisworks user, you might be aware if you go to the settings and check the IFC reader options, then in Navisworks 2025, this will be set to default to use the V4, but you could also switch to the older versions. The benefits of the V4 conversion method are basically that we are now not using the Revit IFC conversion anymore, but we really used a unified software architecture in the background, which gives us a more reliable IFC translation, also when it comes to handling large coordinates, to supporting IFC 4.3 in a better way, and it also results in an improved performance in some cases. However, it does produce a slightly different data structure. So your IFC will be structured in a slightly different way, which might lead to some issues, for example, with model coordination, with the issues. So if you are using other ACC modules. And currently we don't have a way to update the old IFC files, which is why when you create a new project, to use the Data Exchange Cloud Connector for IFC, you will need to re-upload your IFC files. So you should not copy them from older projects because that will basically just copy the old IFC file, which was converted with the V3 converter, and it will not reprocess it. So I know this is not ideal. But if you want to use this connector, I strongly encourage you to create a new project. And then you can also use the ACC bridge to bridge the data exchanges back to an old project if you want to use them there. You just won't be able to create them on an old project. Before I show you how this works in reality, just a quick summary of what other customers are doing with the Data Exchange Cloud Connector for IFC. It has been available for a couple of months now as a beta, and we had quite some customers which were using it. So for example, Skanska was using it to load IFC 4.3 models into the Power BI to do some kind of a model validation. So they built own Power BI dashboards to validate the quality and content of the IFC files. Then we also have this very nice project from our French customer, Fage, who have been working on this very complex reconstruction project of a bridge in Bordeaux. And they had very many different trades and different data formats, which were then delivered as IFC file and as a Revit file. And this was then connected in a Power BI dashboard to give an easy access to everyone. Because in projects where you have a lot of different stakeholders who may not always be, very confident with using the BIM software like Navisworks, for example, it might be a lot easier to share a Power BI dashboard. And then besides Power BI, we also have, for example, the Deutsche Bahn, who is using a data exchange for IFC as well, to basically link data into Revit for the documentation, because this provides a more stable workflow. And Carlos will also be talking a little bit more about this workflow. The great thing is that all the files we will be showing you today are available to you. So feel free to scan this QR code and join our Data Exchange Public Sandbox project. I will also share the link shortly in the chat so that you are able to access the files we are sharing today and test some of the workflows we will be showing you yourself. To give you a link to some more resources on data exchange, this is our link tree, where you will be able to find all the links, including the one for joining the Sandbox project on ACC, but also our learning tutorials, the links to download the connectors, and so on. Having said that, now let me quickly show you what you can do with the data exchange for IFC, and this is the public sandbox project I mentioned, which you will also be able to join. So what you will find here is the file I have been using, the IFC file. Then you will see two data exchanges. So these are the data exchanges we had already created. And here you will also find a link to a YouTube tutorial, which will show you how to create this Power BI dashboard, which is also stored here. So you have all the data to reproduce this on your own. Just to quickly show you what we have already seen in the other file as well. So in the slide deck, what you can do here, you can access the data exchange for IFC. You can basically filter it down according to the IFC classes, and you can see that they are all highlighted depending on what you select. And you can obviously select also several classes. Of course, you can always go ahead and say select all. But the concept of data exchange is really to, extract subsets of data. So we do encourage you, to think about what do you really want to share. And one thing I want to call out, which is super exciting if you ask me, is the fact that you can also select IFC space. Now, we are not showing IFC space on the ACC, so we cannot do that. However, what we can do as the data exchange team, we can make sure that when you create the data exchange, we will include the rooms. So you see, when I am creating this data exchange, I will see no geometry in the preview, but I will see that I have 75 objects. And now when I create a data exchange, it will be stored on the ACC, in this case, in the same folder, but you could also change the folder to be another one. I just use the same one. And I had already previously created an own one, so I will just show you this one. So data exchanges can be viewed on ACC. They cannot be downloaded, but you can review them here. And as you can see here, we have the room geometry. So it is a transparent geometry. You have all the room data available here, and you can use this basically to load the room data into Revit, where it will be loaded as a generic model, but still as a transparent generic model with all the data available. And you can also include it in the Power BI dashboards. And this is something I want to just quickly show you because, as mentioned, you will find a link to the video where I explain this in more detail, how to set up the dashboard. And we will have some future webinars where we dive deeper into how to work with a Power BI. But basically, the viewer you see here is a part of our data exchange connector for Power BI. And you can also create different pages. Like in this case, I have a separate page for the rooms, and I can also switch off the shadows if I don't like them, obviously. And then you can see here we have our room data, and we can filter the dashboard based on the room data. We can review this and so on. As mentioned, since we don't have that much time today, I will share the link to the video where you can see step by step how to create this in the chat in a moment. And I would like now to hand over to Carlos so that we can dive deeper into the Civil 3D to IFC to data exchange to Revit workflow.
Thank you very much, Lesla. I have to say, you shared some tips that I wasn't aware of, so already looking forward to dive deeping into those ones. Okay, so I'm going to start sharing my screen. Hopefully you are now being able to see my presentation. So yeah, for today, this is the workflow that we are going to be doing together. As much as possible, I'm going to be doing everything live, but there might be some things that I've already computed. For example, the IFCs in ACC to make sure that we get to the end on time. Okay, so this is the workflow that we are going to be doing. So the first thing that we are going to be doing is to prepare the coordination file. Okay, in the end, it is very important that we are being able to move our geometry and our data set from one software to another in a coordinated way with our georeference systems and things like this. Then we are going to work on exporting our IFCs 4.3 addendum 2 from Civil 3D. And then in ACC, once our IFCs are hosted in ACC, we are going to create an IFC data exchange for this dataset. Okay. Then we are going to be importing this into Revit, and then we are going to see other coordination workflows that we can do with Civil 3D and Revit. And I also really see and also very big fan of how we are making ACC, our common data environment, also as a bridge to work with our different softwares and in interoperability workflows. So having said that, I'm going to hop out of my presentation and let's start opening some of our datasets, okay? All of these datasets that I'm going to be showing are, as Lela mentioned, they are going to be stored in ACC. Okay, so in the ACC sandbox that you are going to be able to access. Okay, so yeah, deeper afterwards, I'll show you all the different data sets that you're going to have there stored. Okay, so here we have a Civil 3D model. Also, for transparency, I'm going to be showing what versions of my software I'm using. Okay, so for Civil 3D, I'm using version 2026.1. Working on top of AutoCAD 2026.1 also. And here you can see that we have what you think normal in a Civil 3D, in an infrastructure project. Okay, so we have this finished ground, which is composed by several different grounds, like the top of the surface of our corridors. We also have pipe networks. Okay, maybe what I can do, since we now have our model viewer available in Civil 3D 2026, I'm going to be showing this here. Okay, I'm going to select, for example, I'm going to start with my pipe networks. Okay, so I'm going to add them to my model viewer. Okay, also I can keep working in Civil 3D once that I have this. I have some corridors over here. Okay, we are going to be exporting some of this. Okay, so if I say over here objects, add objects, I can just select this over here. Let's just add one so that we get a good understanding of the data set that we are working on. And also we have this finished ground. Okay, here you can see, for example, that I've created this grading at this level. Okay, so I could also add this surface to my model viewer also, so that you see how all of this is getting created in here in Civil 3D. Okay, also couple of important things that I've already done to save some time. In order to coordinate, I'm using in the toolbox, in the miscellaneous utilities, I'm using this shared reference point. Okay, this is going to be also a way that we are going to be using to make sure that our Civil 3D project and our Revit project are correctly georeferenced and coordinated. Okay, so the way this basically works is I select first point, then it tells me select a point on the plus y axis. I select this other point. Okay, and this generates these coordinates with also a rotation in the XY plane. And basically what this is going to create is an XML file. Okay, here you can see this XML file. Also, I've already done this. You already have this XML file in our dataset, in the dataset that you will be receiving when you log into the ACC project. And okay, also one other thing that I did was to export this to as a Civil 3D drawing. Okay, so that I'm also going to be using that to coordinate in Revit. Okay, also for our Revit, the Revit model that I'm going to be coordinating, I also have it as I also exported it as a DWG in this 3D a 3D view of the Revit file that we are going to be seeing in Revit. But basically, this is already georeferenced using the way that I showed. So here, basically, what we want is that these two objects are coordinated in the following way. Okay. So something like that, okay? But then in the end, this is a DWG file, and what we want to see is maintain this as a Revit file. Okay, so now back into Revit. Let's start with the first point of my presentation, preparing the coordination file, okay? To do that, I'm going to create a new project. Okay, I'm going to select metric system, browse, I'm going to select this default metric template, okay, and okay. Perfect. Now I'm going to select this site. Also, bear with me, my scope of expertise, I have to say it's more in Civil 3D, but I kind of know my way around Revit. Okay, so here what I'm going to do, the first thing is to change my units, my project units. Okay, here I'm going to select meters. Okay, and meters. And okay, so now the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this CAD file, okay, that I prepared by exporting my Civil 3D to a DWG file, okay? So here I would say it's over here, awesome. Okay, here I can just select it by origin to internal origin. I don't have any shared coordinates yet. Okay, just in case, I'm going to set import units in meters and open. Okay, perfect. So now we have this file. I'm going to unpin it and I'm going to bring this over here. Okay. Perfect. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to select my survey point and I'm going to unpin it. Okay, and now here in the add-ins, this is publicly available. You can download it in the Autodesk store or from your Autodesk portal. We have this import shared coordinates from XML file. Okay, I'll also show you the XML file while we wait at another stage. Okay, so I'm going to select my first point, origin, and then in the same way I did in Civil 3D, I'm going to select a +Y in the up direction. Okay, and now it's telling me, okay, select your XML file. Okay, I'm going to select it and I'm going to say open. Are you sure to create the new shared coordinates reference point Civil 3D to Revit 00? Yes. Okay, now we will need to make sure this is unpinned, because if it's pinned, you will be moving the grid. Okay, so I'm going to select over here and say, okay, I want to make this one current. And okay. So now you can see how this has already taken in this point. Okay, and it's looking pretty similar to this other point that I'm going to be using as my IFC project base point. Okay, perfect. So now, in order to check if this has been correctly georeferenced, I can link my Revit file that we're going to be using today. I'm going to go over here to Revit. Very important here, make sure that you're saying by shared coordinates over here, okay? Also, my Revit file, I have processed it by doing the same thing, like bringing in this XML file and selecting that direction. And I'm going to say open. Here I'm going to select align. Okay. And as you can see, this is looking pretty good. Okay. So now I'm going to unload my CAD file just for now. So I'm going to go over here to manage my links, and I'm going to say unload just for now. Okay, perfect. So now the next thing that I'm going to do, going back, we've already prepared our coordination file in Revit. Okay, now I'm going to be exporting my IFC 4.3 Addendum 2 from Civil 3D. Okay, so back in Civil 3D, I'm going to unload this or detach this external reference. Okay, so here in the add-ins, you have the new IFC 4.3 add-in, relatively new. Okay, so here the first thing that we want to do is I want to set my IFC base point. Okay, and strategically, I'm going to insert it in the same place I have my survey point back in Revit. Okay, and I'll tell you a little bit more about this in a second. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to save my configuration files into the place where I want to create my IFC, where I want to load my IFC. Okay, I have already done this. Also, for full transparency, I'm using desktop connector version 17.0.1.3021. Okay, so now, as you can see over here, where I'm going to be creating my IFCs, I've already saved these files. Okay, these JSON files. There's now a beta to edit this in an Excel format. Okay, but also you can go over here, edit with Notepad, and do the configurations that you see adequate. Okay, okay. Here you can see the IFC version. In this case, is 4.3 Addendum 2. Okay, so once I've done that, let's start pushing these IFCs into ACC. Okay, to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select, for example, a couple of these pipe networks. Okay, I'm going to select this. Okay, and once that I've selected this, I'm going to say IFC infra export selected. Okay, this is going to trigger the new IFC add-in. Okay, so here what I'm going to do is I'm going to be saving this to IFC over here. Okay, to my IFC folder. Here I'm going to say pipe networks. Okay, and I'm going to say save. So looks like this has already been exported, and I'm going to do the same with this corridor, for example. Okay, and I'm going to say IFC infra export selected. Okay, IFC, and let's write this name here. I'm going to say corridors. Okay, and I'm going to say save. That's it. Okay, so now we've covered the second point that I wanted to show you. Exporting IFC 4.3 addendum 2 from Civil 3D to ACC in this case. Okay, so now what I want to do is use the new exciting data exchange connector for ACC. Okay, so I'm going to open ACC, and this is one thing that I've done in the background. Okay, but I'm going to show you the process. Here you can see that my desktop connector is already pushing these IFCs, okay? But to save some time, because it takes some time to compute, since now to improve the performance of our desktop connector, we will need to select it to generate the viewable, okay? So this is something I've done in this folder that I've called Arena. It's not about the Roman Empire, it's about the name of my doggy. So I'm going to select here this pipe networks IFC, okay? And when I do this, here you can see the viewable that is generated, okay? I'm going to try that once again, okay? I'm going to select. Okay, I think I'm consuming too many resources. Let's try and open this in another browser. Let's try with Edge, acc.autodesk.com. Okay. Bear with me just 1 second.
No worries, Carlos. It's Zoom. It's always consuming so much
Yep.
of the computer resources.
Yeah, I have to say I still prefer to, yeah, it was working in the second one. I always prefer the live demo, so I'm used to this type of things. Okay, so now as Letla was mentioning, here we are going to be able to select the elements that we want to include into IFC data exchange. Here I can choose only my distribution chambers, for example, my distribution chamber elements, or I could also use my IFC pipe segments. I'm also going to be using, I could be filtering by the IFC attributes or the IFC type, okay? So once that I've selected, in this case, I'm going to select everything, the IFC distribution chamber elements and the IFC pipe segments. I'm going to select create an exchange, okay? And now I will be including this over in my data exchange folder, okay? And I'm going to say pipe networks, okay? So I click OK, and it's already creating this data exchange, okay? So I have to say I've already done this, and the ones that I've done in the background, you can see over here in the Arena folder. Okay, so they should be somewhere over here, okay? So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this into Revit, okay? So once that I'm in Revit, I'm going to go to collaborate, okay? I'm going to select data exchange, okay? And I'm going to say load a data exchange, okay? here you can see that in the Arena folder, as I was mentioning, we have these two eligible. Okay, one very interesting thing, and this is also a clear message, is how we want to make sure that we are able to coordinate depending on the strategy we want to choose. Because here you can see that I can select where I want to load my data exchange. I can select at my project survey point, which is what I'm going to be using. I could exchange it at specific coordinates. I could do it at my base point or Revit origin. Okay, so once I'm okay with this, I'm going to say load. Okay. Okay, so while this computes, this is bringing all the parameters and everything. I'm going to give you also a bigger explanation of the data set that you are going to have at your disposal. Okay, so here in your Civil 3D, in the Civil 3D folder, you can see that you are going to have both of these. Maybe I can show it even better in my file explorer. Okay, so I have connected through desktop connector to this folder here in project files, IFC Civil 3D to Revit. Here you are going to have videos of all the processes that we've seen today. Okay. Also here you are going to see the data exchanges that we have just created. Okay. But you could create your own ones using the data set. Then in the IFCs, you are going to have the ones that we have created right now. So the pipe networks IFC and the corridors IFC. Okay. You're also going to have this Revit model, which is already your reference. So you can see the way in which I've set the shared parameters by using this add-in. And then we are going to have this XML file that we created using this option from the toolbox. Okay. Also, if let's take a look at this together, you can see that if I edit this with Notepad, it is basically the X coordinate, Y coordinate, Z coordinate, and also I have my rotation of the XY plane this is in radians. Okay, perfect. So all of this is at your disposal to do your tests, and yeah, if you want to continue the conversations, feel free to ping me through LinkedIn, for example. Okay, so here you can see how the pipe networks has been correctly coordinated. Okay, well maybe just let's check in from this 3D view. Okay, so yeah, it's looking pretty good. Okay, one thing that I prefer, because you would say, okay, why won't I just go ahead and link my IFC directly into Revit? In the end, I see many advantages of doing this because, for example, if you already have a data exchange, you could already be creating your dashboards in Power BI, or you can then use all the different connectors that we have. Okay. Also, if I want to create a new version of my IFC data exchange, I could do that by pushing my IFC once again into ACC and creating this new version, and I could see here. Sorry, I was just getting rid of some items. Apply and OK. If you want to, I lost my what I was talking about. Okay. Yeah, so if you just want to export some of these elements, you are going to be able to do that from a larger data set from your IFC, but then through the filtering, you can choose exactly what data exchange you want to create. Also, one thing, and this is something that we are working on, I've had some cases where when I'm creating, and this occurs specifically for pipe networks, not sure why, but when I'm creating a section, okay, for example, I'm going to create a section over here. Okay, and maybe let's turn this around and let's do something like this. When I'm importing directly an IFC, okay, the section view is giving me everything that is behind these 2 points, okay? And this doesn't happen with my with my data exchange. Now, if I go to view, you can see how this is giving me exactly what it should. Okay, so here you can see once again in this site, this scope box is, or this section box is reaching this point, okay? And here you can see how this is exactly what I'm getting over here, okay? Also, of course, we are maintaining all the properties that are coming from Civil 3D. So that's also really, really nice. So we could use this for tagging or whatever. And yeah, also other workflows that we could do for connecting data from Civil 3D to ACC. We could do this with we could do this with let's we could do this with IFCs also, okay? We could create data exchanges for our surfaces, for example, but also in Civil 3D, what you can do if you want to publish a surface, what you can do is just go over here and say in the collaborate options, you can just say publish surfaces, okay? Then this will publish whatever surface you want. Maybe you already know about this workflow, but you can publish whatever surface you want. You already have this, by the way, in your Arena folder, okay? So here, if I go to Revit, I will be able to go to the Insert tab, Link Topography, and here in this folder, you can see how I have already created this one. You can choose the level. It's going to come in as a topo solid, and you can link this surface. I have to say also the surfaces are now looking much better in Revit 2026. I have tried that workflow and it's looking much better. Okay, so yeah, here you can see how this everything is falling exactly into the place it should. Okay, which I think it's critical because it's great to hire IFCs, it's great to push for open format, but if you are losing the reference points, if you are using your coordinate systems, it's something that you can't really work with. And this is something that I have to say that the IFC data exchange connector for ACC is working really good. Also, I really like in Revit that you can choose exactly where you want that data exchange to come in. And with that, we have 5 minutes to go. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to make it on time, but hopefully and luckily, I might say I did. So yeah, happy to take any questions. Also hear some feedback from you. And I'm going to stop sharing. Once again, I repeat, if you want to follow the conversations it can be on LinkedIn, we can connect. I'm really passionate about the work Lesla's team is doing, and yeah, really looking forward to trying out the new stuff that your team is working on.
Thank you so much, Carlos. This was a great overview, and I really loved also, the whole IFC export tips you shared. I think these are very valuable for many Civil 3D users, and I know this is a very frequently asked question. There was one question in the Q&A, which you I think partially answered, but maybe you can summarize it again. So, what is the advantage from going from Civil 3D to IFC to data exchange to Revit instead of from IFC to Revit directly?
Yep. Yeah, I already mentioned this, but one thing that I saw was that when you're linking directly, for example, a pipe network, when you want to do a section, and that's a very common request from our Revit users. They want the section is showing all the extents of the pipe network. Okay, maybe I can showcase this, and this is something that we are working on to improve this. But let me just quickly go back into my presentation, into my Revit file, and I show you what I mentioned. Also, as I was mentioning, we can use this we can use the Power BI data exchange for IFC, and here we can create our dashboards to also for maintenance of these pipe networks or for the different infrastructure elements that we have in our project. Okay, and also since this is all living in ACC, it's going to be updated. It's going to be our one source of truth, and it can be then taken, for example, to the Navisworks connector and to all the connectors that we are developing. I think we are just in the start of these data exchanges, and yeah, for sure in the future we will be seeing more new workflows. I'm sure about that. Okay, so let me show you what I was mentioning. I'm doing some things in the background. I'm just unloading my IFC data exchange. Okay. Let me reshare my screen. 1 second. Okay. Share screen and share. Okay. I do love to share my screen and do live demos. Okay, so I'm going to say unload this exchange. I'm going to say confirm. Okay. Here I'm going to say insert. I'm going to link this IFC. Okay. Once again, we have it in the data set that you can use, so you can try this by yourself. Okay. If I go over here, okay. Also, one thing that you can see is that this is coming as a direct shape, not as a generic model. Okay, and also let me go to the section. Okay, so this is the section. We should only be seeing one manhole. If I go to my section, you are going to be seeing all of the pipe network that is in front and behind this section line. Okay, so it is showing this. Okay, I've already reported this to the product team, but you can see that with something that it is already available, you can bypass this issue or this technical difficulty. Okay, also there's another workflow. You could bind this link and then create parts. Okay, but then this will be embedded, and if, for example, you have a new version of that IFC data exchange, you would or a new version of the IFC, you would need to remove all the parts, remove that binding that you did, and with the data exchange, you would just need to click on download the latest exchange. Okay, so I do get your question, but I think this is a great way to collaborate between Civil 3D and Revit. Any other questions?
Thank you so much for elaborating on this, Carlos. I can see we are at the top of the hour. There was another follow-up question on that from Gerhard concerning, IFC support in Revit. So IFC support in Revit has drastically improved in the latest versions. And I think as we are at the top of the hour, we cannot really continue going deeper into this. But I would also encourage you to have a look at data exchange not as something that is there to replace IFC. We don't want to replace IFC. We just want to give you a more flexible way to work with subsets of data, and IFC files are often huge. So they are often just overloaded with a lot of data, which you don't necessarily need inside of Revit. And therefore, you can, in these cases, create a data exchange with the subset you really need in Revit, keep Revit light. And it's a little bit easier to update the link than it is to update the linked Revit file, which is also the reason why the Deutsche Bahn I mentioned is using link is basically referencing data exchanges instead of IFC files. But we will dig deeper into this definitely in following webinars and blog posts. So we will keep you posted on that.
Yeah, thank you so much. I have to say it's been a pleasure sharing this morning with all of you. And yeah, looking forward to the next one.